Welcome to the Sports Street with Richard Campbell, and today I have a special guest, Guy Benson from the Hawaiian St. Louis Fan Blue Report. Welcome, Guy.
Hey, Richard, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Today we'll be discussing the NHL expansion draft for Seattle and who we have them protecting and who I have them picking off of each team.
Sounds good.
Now, first here I have Anaheim Ducks, and if you can see it, I have quite a few notable players unprotected here. Most notably, Adam Henrique. I have Henrique Getzlaf unprotected. I have Manson Shattenkirk unprotected, and among other veteran leaders. But the reason I have Manson unprotected is I think he just traded right before the expansion draft to Winnipeg so that they don't have to protect him and instead can protect Lundstad like Jacob Larson or Hayden Fleury.
Well, I mean, I already see right off the bat who I would take from this list, right? If I was them, I mean, it's absolute. You take Getzlaf. Right, you're building a team where you need not just players but names. I mean, I get he's 35, but even with that cap hit, that I don't mind. Yeah, if you're going to leave Getzlaf unprotected, I'm taking Getzlaf.
Well, the reason I Getzlaf unprotected is number one because of his age, but he's also a UFA in 2021, so this year, so he's an unrestricted free agent.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I didn't see that. So actually, he's not draftable. Okay, yeah, I didn't see that.
But so I have them selecting is a Lundstad, Troy Terry. He was reportedly being shopped at the trade deadline, and he's still 23. His shootout a couple of years ago was unbelievable for Team USA. And I think Ron Francis and Seattle hops all over Terry instead of taking a veteran like Shattenkirk.
Well, I guess for me, it's going to be what Seattle wants. What kind of expansion team does Seattle want to be? Now, because when you look at, and this is what I'm trying to say real quick, when you look at what Vegas did, that might never be repeated because Vegas had an opportunity that Seattle doesn't have, and Seattle can't get draft picks to not take somebody. They have to get a player. So because of that, teams may not be as willing to make deals about who they're going to protect and not protect, like Seattle are like they did with Vegas. So bringing in a whole bunch of solid players like Vegas did may not be possible. So do you want to be a young and upcoming team, one that you can make the playoffs in 3 years, or do you want to bring in people that are going to help get butts in the seat and keep butts in the seat for 3 or 4 years? And that, where you get some, you win a little bit, but not a lot. They've already sold out, and that's great. But, that you go and have a really, really bad first year, especially after what Vegas did, some of them season ticket holders might go away real quick.
Now, what I think Seattle does is they pick for the future, but also pick to remain competitive. They still pick players who can keep them competitive, but with an eye to the future, and that is why I picked Troy Terry over Shattenkirk and Fleury.
I would have to say that that's not a bad pick there. I'd also have to look and see if real quick yeah, no, I see that 33. Yeah, the only other one that you may look at picking, Isaac Lundstrom, 21, center, only $1 million. He's an RFA this year, so you might be able, and he's not arbitration eligible, so he may be somebody that you can bring in and work with, all depending on how his RFA is set up. But he's a possibility too, I think. If you're going young, that's somebody that I would possibly look at.
I have Lundstrom being protected by
You have him protected. Okay, my bad.
He-
I need to look up.
That's a first round pick, so I doubt they let go of a first round pick at only 21 anyways.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to Arizona? Now, Arizona was actually one of the most difficult to pick from, and not because of the forward group for me, but because of the defense. Look at all of the defensemen. Most of them are free agents at the end of the league. Golikovsky, Chalmers, and Demers, Ostrel. I just had to pick Capianco, who I wouldn't put under normal circumstances to play.
Yeah. Because you've got to leave one of them. You have to leave one of those that's green unprotected. That's a requirement. All right. So, yeah, that does make it hard. And then you're forced with a couple of no movement clauses there that are going to affect you a lot. This is a tough one. You're protecting, and I'm just double checking over here. Clayton Keller, yeah, I'd protect him. Kessel, no movement. Schmaltz. Yeah, you I think you're on the right track there. From here, this is a crapshoot. I think I think here you go for somebody that's in the age that's age. You know, not you look for a youngster. You look for somebody down there. Burke doesn't have enough games. Bessard's 33. I mean, you're kind of looking down. I want to look for somebody that's young. See, really, if I'm going for age, I'm going to look at. I don't think you have Lane Peterson protected. I can't see that far down.
No, I don't, because I classify him as only an ASL type of player moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so where do you think that Seattle will go with this one?
Well, when I first did my draft, I was going with Aiden Hill over here, a 24-year-old goalie who impressed during his season call-ups over the past few years. But in my draft, there was actually quite a bit of goalies who I picked over him, so I moved to Tyler Pitlick, who's a free agent next year. He's a decent bottom six player and can be trade bait at the trade deadline.
Oh yeah, that's wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have seen that, dude. I like that. That's a real good pick. Real good pick for them. Yeah, I think that's not only that, that's not a player that Arizona is going to lose heavily, you know. They're not going to miss him. You know. No. Yeah, I'm with you there. That's a solid pick.
Same thing can be said about Larubskin of down here, but I like Pitlick more, so I'll pick Pitlick.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Let's go down to Boston, and for first three contender on this list, at least for right now. And Boston, I decided to go for 4 and 4 approach, because Boston, I have them resigning Mike Riley. I think he impresses this year, and I think they decide to resign him.
Okay, well, here's a question for you. What if they take, so they haven't re-signed Riley yet. What if they wait until after the expansion draft to re-sign him? They just make a deal with him. Hey, man, we're going to re-sign you as soon as the expansion draft's over, so we can protect somebody else, or our team's not allowed to do that.
They could very well take that approach, but I think Riley will push them to get it done before the draft.
Okay, good point.
Now, because of them protecting 4 defensemen, they are exposing St. DeBrusque, who's had a horrible year, veteran Craig Smith, Andre Casse, who's been injury-riddled, breakout player Nick Retzi, bottom six player Sean Corrali. Lots of good forwards available for pickup here.
Yeah, I already know who I'm taking off this team.
And let me guess, is St. DeBrusque for a player who still has some potential?
No, see what I don't know is what other goalies you've taken, but Halleck, I mean, that stands out to me. And then you're leaving Rask unprotected. Rask is I mean, I know See, that surprises me that they would leave him unprotected. I think they may protect him. He's a UFA this year, so no, but I think he's already going to resign. I think Halleck is the one that you may go after. Is he a UFA this year? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's a UFA this year. Okay. Yep. No, I'm with you there.
Like if Boston was to resign Vasquez, I think they would protect him, but it's been seeming for a long time that Vasquez on his way out at the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's solid. You got me beat, man. The other thing, well, here's another wrench in that, Taylor Hall. Right? What if they and I say that Taylor Hall's a wrench because what if they decide to re-sign him before the draft? Now you've got to protect him. So you're changing some things up, and you said Riley may go. So Taylor Hall's that little wrench in there. Would you re-sign Taylor Hall and leave him unprotected?
I wouldn't resign Hall in the first place, but if they do end up resigning him, I would try convincing Coyle to remove his no trade clause. If Coyle doesn't do that, then you'll have to expose Riley and protect Hall, DeBrusk, Smith, and Corrali.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's a tough decision. GM's got a tough decision. You're thinking this out really good, bud. I'm with you.
Now let's go to the dumpster fire that is Buffalo. And one thing that you may notice from right away is that I don't have Sam Reinhart protected. And the reason why I don't have Reinhart protected is I have him going to Florida for the same reason as Manson going to Winnipeg. I think Buffalo decides to go longer a little bit. And I think they can their first round pick for Reinhart. So I think they ship him off to the Panthers.
I like your protection list on this one a lot. And I'm probably going to take somebody who's not, I look at this and then there's a player on this list that I think has potential that has not been put in the right situation yet for that potential to come out. And Seattle could be that place. And that's Tage Thompson. Tage Thompson, he's 23. He's tall. He's lanky. He's a good center. He's just not been around enough talent. When he was with St. Louis, he didn't get that chance. He got a small chance. He got a cup of coffee. But, you look at him, he's almost a Colton Parayko type, but has a center. Right? Good slap shot, good hands. He can win some draws. And I think with that height, he can bang some bodies around, but he hasn't been put in a position to succeed. You take him to a young team with some good veterans, some older veterans that really, because, a St. Louis style team, I think he can succeed. I would take, maybe it's the Blues fan in me talking, but I would take Thompson in this one.
Since Lungi, I personally had Thompson being taken by Seattle as well. And it's not because I think Thompson has much potential. I think he just stays a bottom six player for his whole career. But frankly, there isn't many options on this Buffalo team who are run like him. The only player who is Andres Brassard, who was just acquired for Taylor Hall, but I think Buffalo tries to get Skinner to remove his no movement clause for Brassard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and again, I it's when I say potential, I mean potential to stay in the league for a long time, right? Do I think Thompson could be a top six? I think it could be a middle six. I could see him bouncing between the second and the third line as need be, right? With that big stick, with that stick of his, man, I would really work with him on the penalty kill. And learn and teach him how to get in the lanes, because not only has he got a good stick, he's got some speed. If he could learn how to use that big reach, that big stick to make some poke checks, he could score some shorthanded goals, and he could be something special on a penalty kill, I think.
That's a very fair judgment take on Thompson. Personally, I think Thompson's ceiling is for Zay McClement or Luke Landeni type, a very good fourth line face-off centerman. who's don't put up 30 points a year but win some key face-offs. Like we saw in Washington's Cup run how Say Beagle with that face-off circle for them.
Yeah.
Moving on to Calgary. And Calgary was a very difficult one to choose because we have a lot of players who should be protected but who aren't here. Does anyone stick out to you if I don't have protected?
Right off the bat, no. Well, I don't know. Giordano? Well, he's 37, so I could see you not protecting him. They've got a good core. They just haven't been able to put things together. I like what Suter is trying to do there. I think he has good plans moving forward. I don't, nothing sticks out to me. I mean, what am I missing?
Well, I think Calgary needs to retool. Personally, if I was Brad Treleving, well, first of all, Treleving should not be Calgary's general manager anymore. How many general managers have gone through 5 head coaches in 6 years?
Yeah.
I never heard of that, and that's still keeping his job. So I think Treleving just fired him for off-season. And I think they trade Monahan and Goodrow as well, but not before the draft, which is why I have them protected here.
Yeah.
Now, one thing about Seattle, Ron Francis, he was with them from Carolina for 4 years, and I think he takes what he learned from Carolina into Seattle. And that is having a reliable two-way centerman who can put up points, aka a Jordan Star. And that is Michael Backlund right here. He has that star tendency. He can put up 40 to 50 points a year, but his two-way game is off the charts.
Yeah, I see that. Backlund, I could see that. 5 million cap hit. That's good. He's 32. I mean, he might be declining, but you're looking for that. Also, the veteran leadership for a team like that. You look at what Vegas did. Vegas had a lot of Vegas had some good, strong veteran leadership, and that's what. Besides having the best goalie, probably one of the best goalies in the league, having that strong veteran leadership is what kept them moving. Instead of them, kept them going right from the get-go. So it was a perfect storm. So yeah, that's a good pick.
Now, another one who I could see Seattle taking is Tanev, but I think they stay away from that contract for a big shot-block defenseman. As in 2024, when his contract runs out, that could be a killer.
Yeah. I mean, 30. Yeah, at 21. Oh, yeah. I'd be weary of that contract too. I'm with you.
Moving on to Carolina, Ron Francis's old team, which makes this one the most intriguing one for me to see who he takes from his potential team. And now there are a lot of good players exposed here. A lot of good bottom 6 guys, Brock McGinn, Martinu, Sesper Fast. And then up here, I left Hamilton off because he's a UFA. Brady Sketch, Shea Gardner, Hikan Packer, and Reimer and Morasa because for both UFAs. Who do you see them off of this shot, them staying away from or taking?
This is going to be an interesting one because, like you said, it's his former team and it's what you want to do. If you're going for youth, look for youth. If you're going for that, playoff spot, you need that 27, 26, 28-year-old player. And it really thinks that they got some. Now you talk about guys that are UFAs this year. You said Dougie Hamilton's a UFA. Well, what if Dougie does something, what if Hamilton decides to stay in Carolina and signs early? So now you've got to protect him, and that's going to open something else up. And the other thing is, as soon as this free agency market hits, remember, they can sign free agents now. So when the free agency market hits, you got to look at what they're going to do in the free agency market right off the get-go. I could see them starting to bring in some free agents before. Well, the expansion draft is right after is it before or after the draft? The expansion draft before the draft, but it's free agency before or after the draft. I think it's right after the draft, right?
Free agency is like a week after the draft. It goes expansion draft, and then free
agency. Okay. So yeah, I think this is a toss up. You could I see probably seven or eight players that would fit in just fine with what they're trying to do. I want to know who you took, because I'm looking at it and I don't have a name.
I zeroed in on 3 players specifically. Nino Niederreiter, who is a UFA at the end of the year. They could trade him like how I plan on them trading Tyler Pitlick at the trade deadline. And Niederreiter can put aside some of that veteran leadership as a top 6 forward. I have Sketch and Garner here. They're both top 4 defensemen at the best capabilities. And this is why I picked Garner, because he is a top 6 defenseman still, in my opinion, and number 4 defenseman, in my opinion, on most teams. And Garner just needs a change of scenery. Carolina was never a good fit for him, and I think could really put up 30 points in Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good pick. Like I said, I think this is the one where you like throw the names up and out of the hat and grab one, and that's the one you pick, because there's just so many different. And like I said, it all depends on what their strategy, what kind of team they want to be. Because I think Vegas came out and Vegas saw the opportunity they had and decided they were a go for it team, right? They weren't going to be the expansion whipping boy. They were going to go for it. And you look at how they picked David Perron, Flower. And then the trades they made during bringing in Ryan Reeves, bringing in, they've really done some pretty strong work right off the bat. And they may, in some way, Seattle might try to duplicate that.
Well, I think Vegas didn't plan on winning right away in the first year like they did, because they selected Perron and Neal when they were both free agents at the end of the year. I think they planned on flipping them, but once they started winning, why would you flip them? And you might as well go for it. They acquired Thomas Tatar from the Red Wings, thank you, because they give the first round pick, second round pick, and third round pick for Tatar, so I was happy. But and plus, why I have Garner going to Seattle is I hadn't picked a defenseman yet, and Garner's the best defenseman I see that's Hamilton.
You're not going to like the next one. I have something. I'm going to say something on the next one that's going to freak a lot of people out. You ready? Well, I'll wait till you go, and then we'll go for it.
Well, Chicago doesn't have many players you can protect either. Like you have the 2 no movement clauses from Tyson Kane and Seabrook and Keith.
Yeah.
I have them protecting DeBrincat, Strome, Gaudette, who they most recently acquired, Nylander and Borgstrom. And I have them protecting Wiley Steelman, letting Connor Murphy and DeHaan go. Who do you see here that you see them potentially taking?
I'll tell you what I would do if I was Chicago. And this is going to really mess people up. First of all, you don't know what Tay's issue. We don't know what Tay's issue is with the medical issue, right? So with his medical, he could move over to the exempt list, right? So that might open another thing. The other issue I see is Kane. If I'm Chicago and you see how your season went, how you got semi-close, but you just didn't have enough to pull over. I would talk to Kane about possibly removing that no trade clause, no movement clause, and seeing if he'd let me unprotect him to see if Seattle would take a bite at him. That $10 million salary, that's That's better than 10% of their overall 81.5 mil that they got to spend, or they could spend. That might scare them off, but at the same time, it's a name who could keep seats in. I don't think it would happen. I just think that for me, Kane, well, I know Kane is always going to be a Blackhawk. I just think that he might be killing the team a little bit.
I could see them asking some players to remove the no movement contracts, most notably Duncan Keith. After Darcy Brook retired, so I'll have Johanna Murphy protect instead of Seabrook. But I would ask Keith to remove his no movement contracts. I doubt they bite on Keith, and I could see them protecting Johanna Murphy and Stillman instead of Keith.
Is Keith even playing? I thought he was like injured or something.
No, Keith's still playing. He's actually having a pretty decent year this year.
Okay.
Who do you have them selecting from Chicago?
Chicago's just on this side of a dumpster fire with the way that their contracts, all their bad contracts went. But they've got some talent there. Actually, there's I guess I'm on I like Subban, right? I think Subban is a better goalie than he's getting credit for. I think he's never really had enough time or the defense. I mean, because he's got no defense in front of him in Chicago. But I've watched him play. I got to see him play one time just for a little bit because he got hurt when he was with Vegas. And it was semi-impressive, right? I mean, this is in 17-18 when the Blues were at the time the top team in the league, and he was able to stifle them. So he's got that. I don't know. I don't know who your other goalies that are out there. I mean, because I'm seeing it per team. So this is another one where I think you just throw the names up in a hat and pull, unless you do what you were talking about, like Brett Conley there, 29 right wing UFA here shortly, maybe trading for some picks.
No, I don't have them taking Conley because that contract is bad with the season he's had. His season's been abysmal so far. Mm-hmm. I do have them taking DeHonfo because, as you said, flip him for picks as he's a free agent at the end of next season. You can probably do a 4th round pick for him.
Yep. Okay, I'm with you on that.
Moving on to Colorado, and there's a lot of picks that don't disagree with me on here. I have them going on for 4-4 approach because I don't think Johnson waives his no movement clause. I have them resigning Grubauer, and this is for one of the only times I have them protecting a UFA in Landis card, as I've been not doing West Seattle taking him. In response to that, I have them exposing Kadri, Donskoy, Comper, Tyson.
Well, go back a second. So let's say, okay, so let's say you unprotect Landeskog. They take him. He doesn't sign, and he comes back. You could protect somebody. You could protect Donskoy, who they love, right? And they take Landeskog. That's a no harm, no foul. As long as you have already talked to Landeskog and know that he's coming back, right? I would take that. I'd let him go after Landeskog. Let him take him because I know he's not going to sign there. They're taking a chance on a player that may not sign. And you got to remember the other smart thing here is they have to hit that ceiling, that floor in this draft. They have to hit that floor in this draft. So that's something where if you leave him unprotected and they don't take him because they know that money's not going to hit the draft, they're not going to be able to keep that money, right? They may just scoot over him. I don't know. I think I'd protect Donskoy because if you're leaving Donskoy unprotected, that's the name that leaps out to me. Take him.
Well, the thing about Landeskog is I think he is for heart and soul of the Avalanche. He's not the best player like McKinnon or McCarroll, but he has that leadership style like Mark Stone in Vegas. He is for Mark Stone for Colorado. And I think if Seattle does a chance on him, I think they hop on him immediately because Seattle can pay more money in free agency than Colorado can. Seattle can offer him $8 million for 8 years, and I bet he would take that.
Possible. I mean, it's an interesting conundrum, right? When you think about it, because you can go a couple different ways with that. But like I said, are you okay giving up? Who do you have Seattle taking on this?
I have Seattle taking Tyson Schultz. He is 23 years old, picked 12 overall a couple of years ago. He's been not very good for Colorado so far, but he has potential, and I think Seattle could take a look at a 23-year-old and think he has what it takes to break out.
Okay, I mean that's fair, but you wouldn't snap up Donskoy? I mean, Donskoy is a solid right winger. He's a top six, easily a top six, right? I mean, he's playing middle six or bottom six on the Avalanche, but I think he could be a top six anywhere else. And the money's not that bad. 2.9. Is that what I'm reading on this?
3.9.
3.9. Yeah, for 3.9, and you got him for 2 years or a year and a half, and then you got picks later. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think Donskoy's the way you would go there.
Now, personally, I have Colorado picking for first sale of arenas throughout the draft, so much so I had to move some over to other positions. This one, I always had Tyson Schultz, but that's why I don't have Donskoy because of abundance of arenas available.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. I mean, you've got a much better mind when it comes to all this stuff than I do. So I'm just processing what you're telling me and then looking at from you're a stats guy. I'm an eye guy, right? And that's so when you say a name, what's the eye test? What's the eye test? What's the eye test? That's what I'm looking at. So for me, the eye test is absolutely Donskoy.
Fair enough. Moving on to Colorado, who should be entering a rebuild this year, in my opinion. And I have
Columbus.
4 defensemen, 4 forwards, and this, leaving some decent players out, but no must-haves, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any players that stand out to you?
I'm trying to look right now. Nyquist, 31, strong white winger. Can play top 6 minutes, can play middle 6 minutes, can play power play, little bit on the penalty kill if need be. Butts and seats guy, because see, this is what I'm looking at. When Vegas first came out, right, they had all of these seats sold, but when I went on the secondary market to go to the Vegas game, there were so many seats available, right? And this was early. This was early in their season. So, but those seats, a lot of those season ticket holders are looking at everybody else coming to the thing. They're looking at there's some profiteering going on, right? And I know that. So with that being said, you got to get the butts in the seats. You got to have the guys that people are going to go and kind of see play. So that's why Nyquist kind of sticks out to me.
Well, the reason why I don't have Nyquist protected is because he was injured for all of this year, and I just don't see Seattle taking a chance on an injured forward who's entering his 32-year-old season. Personally, I have them selecting Max Domi, who could, again, lose a different kind of scenery, as he still has potential. I think he can still be a 50-point guy. Columbia isn't the place for him, though. Seattle is the place.
So here's my issue with Max Domi, right? He was in Montreal. He had potential in Montreal. Montreal got rid of him. He goes to Columbus. He has potential in Columbus. Now you're saying Columbus is going to get rid of him. When is the potential going to finally reach? When is he going to reach his potential, or has he reached it?
I think his one Montreal deal was his potential a 70-point deal. I think he has potential to be a 60-point player for a couple of seasons, and if not, 50-point player. But I think Arizona got rid of him too soon, as I think Arizona could have used him as part of a contending core when they got rid of him. Montreal, I would have kept him instead of trading him for Josh Anderson myself. I think it's just unfair how every team's trading him away.
Yeah. Well, you're right. That's the other player that I kind of, so Nyquist was he was the first one that stuck out to me. But yeah, Domi would be the other one. He would be the other one. But I am concerned, he's 26 and we keep at 26, when you're still saying the word potential, potential is 22, 23. At 26, you're wondering, is that potential ever going to hit? He had the one good year. What caused that good year, and now, so that's why I think, and then you mentioned Nyquist being hurt. Sometimes those are the guys that you really, look at guys that have missed a season or a large part of season. When they come back, they go into that next season, and if they get their time, they get their, and that a lot of them do come back, and Nyquist is somebody at 31 that could come back. So that's just kind of where I'm looking. And again, the name recognition. You need that name recognition with your expansion.
That's true. Another name I love to expose is Boone Center, who is like that type of heart and soul type of guy for Columbus. Yeah. But I think Columbus moves on from Total Weather in the summer. I think they try to let go of a couple of guys that represent his type of hockey, which is what Boone Center is. I don't have Seattle taking him because I don't think Francis wants to go that route. But if he does, that's a very good pick too. And plus, he's a free agent at the end of the year.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Moving on to Dallas. And Dallas has a lot of no movement clauses up front, which made it difficult to protect some of these players.
Yeah, I see that. Wow. I see two right off the bat that I would look at. Maybe, I'm thinking knowing the way you're thinking, you went with a goalie on this one, didn't you?
Maybe.
Khabibulin. I would take either Khabibulin or I would take Pavelski and Cogliano. I mean, which way do you want to go? I like. I think I'd take Khabibulin.
Like Khudobin too, because he led Dallas to the Cup final, so we know if he gets hot right away. And I think Francis acquired Khudobin from Boston and Carolina, and he was the starting goalie for a year or two before he fell off. So I think that's a very intriguing pick to me, considering Francis's history.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, you're not going to go wrong with any of those three picks, right? Even Pavelski at his age has still got name recognition. He's still got that. Cogliano still got name recognition. Still got years left in him. Khabibulin, name recognition. Cup goalie, cup style goalie, somebody who can lead you there. For me, that's where you go. But here's the other thing. Bishop's injury. It may be enough that they don't have to protect him, and then they may allow them to protect Khabibulin.
They would have to protect Khudobin for that. But remember, they have Zach Odiner, who had a really good rookie year this year and who has potential to be better than Ben Bishop, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think if Dallas is allowed to not protect Ben Bishop, I think they still protect him no matter what.
Well, yeah. So yeah, then Hobby Bullen would be gone.
Mm.
Oh, hey, at least I see. I'm learning how you think.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Moving on to my favorite team for Red Wings, and I have them protecting Larkin, Bertuzzi, Vrana, Fabry, Adam Earn, who's been having a really good year, Rasmussen, and Shevchnikov, and defensemen Stetzer, Lindstrom, Hronek, and Grice.
Ooh. Yeah, Grice. You know what? I don't think I'd protect Grice because I don't think they take him. I don't think they take him. He hasn't had a great year in he's 35. He hasn't had a great year. Look at some of your younger ones. Look at Fulcher there, right? 22, RFA. I would protect him because I don't think Reese gets taken. I'd rather, I know you said you had some other good goalies, but young goalies, if you got a young goalie that has any type of potential and I don't know, that's just so tough for me. This is a hard team to figure out. And then you've got Stevie Y, who knows how to build a winner, right? Do you think Grease is the goalie you build a winner around?
No, that's not why I protected him. I protected Grice because I don't see anyone worth protecting around here. Burnley's gone at the end of the year, and I don't think Fulcher has high potential, even though I could be wrong. He played for my hometown, Sarnia Steam, before he got traded to Hamilton. Saw him a little bit. And plus, Grice is a free agent at the end of the year. We can trade him at the trade deadline, like how we should have traded Burnley at the trade deadline, but never mind that.
You got. So who do you have them taken?
I have Seattle taking from Detroit Kowalski because he's still on at 23 years old. He still has potential. The reason why I don't have Yzerman protecting him is that Yzerman didn't pick him. It was Holland's regime that picked Kowalski, and I don't think Yzerman plans on him being part of the future. It certainly doesn't seem like it to me.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Does he get his 5 games? Did Detroit have 5 games left?
Something like that.
Because here's what Yzerman could do, right? So this guy, he's got to reach those games, the 27 or the 54, in order to be off the exempt list. So if you sit him and you don't play him and he doesn't reach those 5 games, he goes to the exempt list and then you don't worry about it.
True.
Right. So that's something to think about there. It's not a bad choice. And you're right with what you're saying, but I'm thinking this isn't a business wise, right? Why would I leave somebody? Why would I worry about somebody? I mean, I don't play him if I got 5 games left and I don't play him 1 game, I sit him for 1 game, then there we go. I'm good to go. I don't even have to worry about it. He goes to the exempt list.
True, but if they don't take Kowalski, and that's I put up against remaining for Lindstrom, so I won't protect Lindstrom. I'll be protecting for the future bigger then. But if Kowalski doesn't play those 5 games, Valentina Misanov sets to trade him at the deadline.
Yeah. Good point. Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember, we're doing this. We're not in the office, but we're just going on what we think. But sometimes you got to, that's what Vegas did. Vegas thought outside the box, right? The Vegas did not take every player that everybody thought they were going to take, right? They really didn't. And they thought outside the box. And by thinking outside the box, they won early. So does Ron Francis do that? Does Ron Francis, and you already look at what they're doing now with some of the people they've already hired, the GM, or with the GM, with the trainers and all of that. I think they're already thinking outside the box.
That very well could be. I'm just basing his drafting style from his time in Carolina, where he was very patient and stick with the process type of guy, which is why he got let go from Carolina because he was too patient. But I think he does a little excited with the draft because he doesn't want to get fired again. But I think he still maintains that approach.
Yep.
And now I could see him taking someone like Tyrell Hughes, like how Vegas took Nosek from us, or it's gone, but I just don't see it from here.
The other thing, and I don't know this, I mean, who's Seattle born and raised, right? Remember Vegas took a guy that was, born in Vegas to build around him, not build around him, but sell him, So that's something that you got to look at. There might be a player, and that I don't know off the top of my head. Actually, I do know one, and we'll see if you have him protected later.
There's a couple people from Washington State in this list, and I'm able to get to some of them later on.
Okay. Oh, this is going to be a fun team next.
Edmonton Oilers. And you may notice I have 4 defensemen and 4 forwards protected, and I have good reason for that. Klefbom, if he is supposed to be exposed, that Edmonton protects him, as he is still 27 years old. Despite him being injured, that's still a lot of good player in him, as he's a 40-point defenseman when healthy. So I think they protect him, no questions asked, if he is not exempt from it. And for forwards, I have McDavid, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi, and Yamamoto, leaving a lot of intriguing prospects for Seattle to take. And I don't have Nugent Hopkins as protected because he's UFA.
Yeah. This is one where if I'm Edmonton, and well, you know what, for me, this is Edmonton's going to see where they go in the playoffs, right? Do they come out of that division? Is it a first round loss again? What happens? Let's say it is another first round knockout. I would seriously look at leaving McDavid open. And I know everybody's going to go, oh, how could you? Look, McDavid's up there you haven't won with him. He has not, number 1 overall draft pick, Hart Trophy winner, never been past the first round of the playoffs, right?
True.
Never been past the first round of the playoffs. Taylor Hall, you got, oh man, I'm so flustered over it. I can't even come up with the names. The other guy that's on his side, you got Hopkins, you've got
Yamamoto.
Yeah, Yamamoto, who's coming up. Who's the guy that Draisaitl, right? You got Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins. You've got Yamamoto coming up. They've got the players, Neil, right? And at some point, McDavid, a 12.5 cap hit. 12.5. He is in some ways handcuffing the team. I would take a chance, unprotect him. If he goes to Seattle, he goes to Seattle. But rebuild, because this is a team that needs to win, and they're not winning with McDavid unless they get past. If they get past the second round, or they get past the first round, or even to the third round, let's say they make it to the third round, then I say, okay, now you got something. But you don't. You get another first round knockout, I say it's time to cut bait.
I mean, that's an interesting statement you've made, because that is a lot of money committed to one player. I don't see how they can expose the best player in the world right now, but that's an intriguing take for sure. Who do you see Edmonton taking off of this list? Who do you see Seattle taking off of this list?
Oh, wow. This is a tough one. Did you protect Turris?
No, I didn't.
I could possibly see Kyle Turris. I know he's older, but he's also that veteran, the veteran presence you need for a young team like that, for a new team like that. I see that. And it's same thing with Neal. I think Neal could be worth it. And then you left Hopkins open. Well, you said Hopkins is a UFA. So, and said, there's the thing. I don't think Hopkins comes back unless they get to the third round. Right. I think that I don't know. There's something about McDavid. Yeah, he's great. Okay. But nobody else around him is. No, look, how many times has he even made it to the playoffs? I think they've only made it like twice. This will be the third time since he's been in the league, and he's been in the league 6-7 years now. Right? I think he's been in the league since he was 18. He came right in. He didn't go, he's never been in the minors. He came right in. So he's been in the league since he was 18, 6 years now, and 50% of the time they've gone to the playoffs. He's had Hall. He's had number one draft picks with him, and they just haven't succeeded. It's taken too long to me. And that's just that's what I said. If it doesn't happen this year, it might be time to cut bait.
Kind of like how Zach Eichel in Buffalo, is that how you kind of seen it? Yeah,
exactly. Right. Eichel is, there's nobody around him. He's not lifting other things up, This is Eichel. Well, Buffalo's a dumpster fire to begin with. Okay. That's a bad ownership group. You don't have a bad management in Edmonton, right? This isn't a team that struggles to fill the building. This isn't a team that's struggling to make the buck. They have the resources they need. At some point, dude, you have to start winning, right? I mean, at what point do you Gretzky? If Gretzky didn't win, do you think they'd keep him? Right? I mean, he won. He won there. He elevated everybody around him, and he knew that. It just really seems like McDavid doesn't elevate the rest of the team. Maybe, and I'm talking eye test here, not stats, eye test. How many times? I mean, what he does is great, but how many times has he had to do that? I think a lot of times he doesn't have to do it, but he does it anyways. And maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you're up in Canada, you get a little bit better view of those teams. But just for me, it just seems like a lot of times when I see him make this great move against two defenders, I see somebody else streaking down the side that's wide open that doesn't get a pass. Right? That, he's got to go do this immaculate move where if he just would have passed it, it would have been a goal anyways. So that's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off base. Maybe you're going to get all kinds of hate mail over this, but that's what I'm thinking.
You can actually fault Edmonton's management group right now for them not banking for playoffs years ago, as Peter Cirelli ruined that Edmonton team, trading away Taylor Hall for Adam Larsson and trading away Eberle for Ryan Strome and signing Milan Lucic to that contract. It was Cirelli who destroyed it. Holland is just still trying to pick things up, and it's kind of hard to with for bad contracts such as Koskinen, Cassian, other contracts of that nature.
Yeah. Who do you have him picking?
I have Lagesson downhill picking, as he still has a little bit of potential to be a solid number 5, 6, or 7 defenseman. But I can also see Benson downhill being picked because he also has potential, and it's longer, but games remaining is a lot.
Yeah. No, his games remaining won't come up. There's only 4 games left, 4 or 5 games left. So that his games remaining is going to put him in the exempt list.
Well, never mind. I should see if Allegiance had some too.
10 games left. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll have to go with Aussie Bot for the same reason as Panic trade bait at the trade deadline.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. But see, you could do Tourist as the same thing.
No, same thing, same type of thing.
Yep. I'm with you. That was a good one, bud. Sorry I went on so much about McDavid on that.
I'm glad you elaborated, as I don't agree with it, but it's a very interesting take.
Right. Just at what point do you fish your cut bait, And to me, he's gotten to that point. He's gotten to the fish or cut bait point. Right. Go ahead.
I'm really interested in what Edmonton does in the playoffs, considering Winnipeg is still on a losing streak. I believe it's at 6 games now. They should be able to pick a Winnipeg team on a 6-game losing streak.
Yep.
Going on to Florida, I'm seemingly top contender now.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of players who I love the sports that have very interesting takes, such as what happens if they resign Brandon Montour? Do they ask Lando to waive his no movement contract?
Yeah.
And there's quite a few youngsters who have potential to become something on a different team, such as Lamico, Sorelli down here. Who do you see Florida getting?
Well, see, this is a tough one for me because Coach Q has flipped this team around. He has got this team believing. I say eye test, right? What about taking a reclaim project because I'm looking an eye test. I'm looking at that Duclair. He's an RFA. You're going to sign him. You're going to sign him for a decent amount. He's not going to break your bank. He's a solid middle six. I've heard he's a little bit of a locker room guy, the stress in the locker room, but he's playing well under Coach Q. So I kind of have a feeling that Duclair might be, at 25 as an RFA. You take that chance. I think you take that chance.
Well, I don't see Duclair resigning in Florida, which is why I don't have him protected. But if he does resign in Florida, I'll have to protect him over Hornqvist, despite Hornqvist.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with Duclair. As an RFA, right? He has to sign with Florida, right? He cannot go. He cannot go anywhere else. RFAs have to sign with their team. It's just when they sign and for how much they sign. Now he's should be arbitration eligible, so he could take it to arbitration. So they can wait all the way until the season starts, our training camp starts to sign him, and that happens a lot. It happened with Dunn this year. Dunn signed his RFA 3 days before training camp, right? So one of the reasons that RFAs do that is if they sign early, that all those clauses in your contract you have to abide by. If you wait to sign them, you don't have to abide by all those clauses until you sign the contract. And there's a lot of clauses in there. You can't ride a motorcycle, you've got to do this, do that. When they don't sign them, that frees up some of that. And that's something to look at. Also, it frees up the side deals, right? You're not attached to the team completely. So you can bring some other, speaking engagements and things like that in that you couldn't do before. So there's some other stuff that's attached to that. So for me, Duclair is either going to be a Florida Panther, or he's going to be a Seattle Kraken. It's one of the two. And if you're going to leave him unprotected, knowing that, I'm taking him.
I think Duclair requested to not rejoin Florida. I think he will get offended by Florida Salomonians will build Seattle's offer for him, as I think Seattle will be tight pockets type of guy and not offer $4 million for his next deal.
Yeah.
Personally, I have them taking Vatrano, who can be a middle sets option, put up 40 points a year, and still be dealt at the trade deadline.
Yep. I mean, good. I mean, it's good points, like I said earlier, you're a stats guy. You see it from the stats, and I see it from the eye test, and that's not a bad thing. It's neither one are bad, right? Some guys are stats warriors, some guys are eye test warriors, right? And it's not only that, it's name recognition. If you bring names in, you get an excited fan base, and an excited fan base gets you TV ratings, and TV ratings get you TV money. There's a lot that goes with that. And that in Vegas, that's what Vegas did.
True. I could also see Florida taking reclaim Prospect and taking a Lamico Marchman as well.
Yeah.
Going on to LA, and I decided to do for 14 full forwards, full defenseman approach for this one.
Yeah.
And this one was probably the hardest one to pick, not because of a lot of good players being available, but because there are a lot of bad players who I wouldn't protect, which is why I went with a full forward, full defenseman type of route.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I already see my name.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd take Quick. I'd look at this and I think Quick. You talked about who was it before? Hobby Boolin and Quick. 2 1s, a 1 and a 1A. You got a team that you can. So you said you were concerned about Hobby Boolin, having a down year here or something like that. You put Quick right behind him. I don't know who else you left unprotected, but of the 2 big name goalies that I see, unless there's somebody you got unprotected down the road that could a better name than Quick or a better player, even at 35, he's got 2 more years. Yeah, you can build around a guy that, especially, so you're putting a lot of young defense, a lot of quick defense is what I've seen so far. If you're doing that, you absolutely have to have a goalie that knows how to play like that, and Quick knows how to play like that from LA.
Well, the thing that Quick has is his bad contract is 2 more years, and he hasn't played like an elite goalie for the past 2 or 3 years. Ever since they got out by Vegas, he hasn't been a good goalie.
Yeah, but remember, bad contracts don't matter to Seattle, right? They've got $81 million to sign, and they have to hit that $43 million mark in this expansion draft. So they've got that. They're going. That's one of the things about that floor. That floor is going to make them take some of these bigger, quote unquote, bad contracts.
The only point I can see Seattle taking from my point of view is if LA throws in another player to take for them to take Quick, such as Elias Anderson or Matthew Roy. I meant to protect Matt Roy and not Sean Walker, but moving on. I could see them throwing a lump player to take Quick, but I don't see them picking him out of a lineup like this.
Okay. Who do you see him taking without taking Quick?
I see them taking a player who has potential, but who hasn't reached it with LA, and that is Jacob Moveville. He's 22 years old. I mean, not Moveville. I meant Walker up here. He is 26 years old. He's a right defenseman. He's making decent money, and he could be a Colin Miller type of defenseman for Seattle, similar to how Miller was for Vegas.
Yep, I'm with you. I agree. I see that. You're good there. Again, I'm just thinking outside the box.
I mean, that's fair. Moving on to Minnesota, and this is what I mean by better goalies being left available. This is why I have Cam Tilburn left available, same as Matt Dumba. Now, the thing about Matt Dumba is I have Minnesota paying Seattle off by giving up Tilburn for Seattle to take instead of them taking Dumba.
So who do you have them taken?
I have Seattle taking Cam Tilburn to a tandem of Khudobin.
Okay, but who is Minnesota trading or giving to Seattle to get Seattle to take Talbot?
Right now, I see a couple of names that pop up in my mind, most notably Nico Sturm over here, who has had a nice season for Minnesota so far, but could break out in Seattle.
Okay, that is something that I would, because if you're not going to give me somebody to take Talbot, because Talbot's got, he's got up and downs, right? He's had a good season with Minnesota, but that's a good season with Minnesota with a good defense. Mm-hmm. If I have the choice of Dumba and Talbot, I'm taking Dumba, right? 28 years or 26, right? Right defense, got 2 years. I can trade him at the trade deadline. Like you brought that up a couple of times, I'm sorry, either you're giving me somebody to take. So you've got an unprotected 26-year-old right defenseman and an unprotected 33-year-old goalie that most people think's on the end of his career, even though he's had a sort of a resurgence, with a young defense that needs veteran leadership and veteran teaching. I'm sorry, I'm taking Dumba unless you're giving me, like you said, Roy, or who was it down there?
Nico.
Strum, right? You're gonna either give me Strum or somebody else, or even Victor Rask, right? You're gonna give me somebody strong to make me not take Dumba.
Now, from my perspective, I have Minnesota giving them Sturm to take Tilburn, but if Seattle says I'm not going to do that, I do have them protecting Dumba and going with the full forward approach by protecting Zuccarello, Weiler, Eriksson Ek, and Parise, and then Seattle would take Greenway.
Yeah, I could see that too. Right? I mean, again, outside the box, right?
I took a risk by exposing Dumba, but this is under the pretense that Tilburn continues his resurgence.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference when Pittsburgh left Marc-Andre Fleury unprotected. They had just won the Stanley Cup with a rookie, quote unquote, rookie goalie, right? So they had what they felt was a goalie of the future against the goalie of the past. Both of them are Stanley Cup winning goalies. Both of them have 2 rings. Okay, I got that. But Fleury wasn't at the end of his career. So that's the difference here between Fleury and any of these other goalies that we're seeing. None of them are at the end of their careers. And that are all of them are at the end of their careers. None of them are in that mode of Fleury, who was still what? I think he was under 30 when Vegas took him, right?
He was the same age as Tilburn, 33 years old.
So he's 35 now? 36 now?
36, I believe. He was born in 1984, so he'll be 37 soon. Okay.
Fair enough. See, I could never spit that out of the air, man. That's why I love you. So you got to look at things the best way possible, Oh, this will be a fun one.
Yep. perhaps, and I have them exposed themselves. A lot of fans will either love me or hate me, Jonathan Drouin. I'm assuming a lot of Habs fans want him gone, considering he's only scored 2 goals this year, despite Lupe Sugasev for him.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're for full forward for defenseman approach for this one, so Habs should protecting a lot of the depth defensemen. I meant to select Kulak instead of Kill Fleury there, my mistake. But that's my approach, a full defenseman, full forward approach here.
Okay, so here's what I'm doing if I'm Montreal. I'm trading somebody to Seattle to not take Jake Allen. Because I'll tell you, of all the goalies that you've left unexposed right now, I think that's the guy right there. That's the guy you take, right? Now, I know Jake Allen very, very well. I know Jake Allen when he's Jake the Snake, and I know Jake Allen when he's Shaky Jake. Mm-hmm. But you put him in, I'm sorry, man, you're taking a 1A, and leaving them unprotected. You don't want to give them up. You come over with somebody over here, right? Even because you look at this, you got Shea Weber and Jonathan Drouin, and you just said Drouin's not having a great year. Okay, well, you know what? Of those three, who do you take? I'm taking Allen every day. Every day I'm taking Allen.
And normally I would agree with you. If there was no trade involved, you have to take Allen here. But I do have a trade involved here, and that's involving, hold on, Zach Evans right here, who just turned 24 years old and already claimed for fourth line center spot on Montreal. He still has potential to be a really good fourth liner type of player. He passed the top prospect, Michael Poling, for that fourth line center spot, and I think Seattle would have their eyes on him.
Yeah. Also, you got another one unprotected there that I just seen. He's a UFA. Never mind. So you have them trading that to protect Allen, correct?
Yes.
So who do you take?
Drouin. I think Seattle thinks of him as a type of resurgence prospect. If he turns into a 60-point player, great. If he doesn't, no harm, no foul. He's gone in 2 years.
Yep, I'm with you. And that's, again, as long as you're taking Jake Allen off the market.
Now heading off to Nashville. Well, I think Nashville, to begin with, I think they should just rebuild, as I don't see them winning anything else than what they've already did with this core. But well, in the playoff race, I don't see why they didn't trade Ekholm at the trade deadline. So this is under the pretense of me protecting Ekholm. So I went forward for defenseman approach, leaving off my big contracts of Matt Duchene and Johansson.
Yeah. And then you've got another big contract over there with Pekka.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No, this is one of those. There's 3 or 4 different players on here you could take. Dumba probably, or Duchene, Ryan, Johansson. Oh, wow. I don't know. Actually, I think I would. Pekka's a free agent, so maybe you don't touch him. But yeah, I think I'm with you on Duchene. I think. Well, no, I take Johansson. You got him locked up till 25 at $8 million, 28 years old. That's the bet of the two. That's the better one.
I see it as differently, as I think Duchene is a better player and has more potential to bounce back than Johansson. As Johansson's been in this decline for a long time, Duchene just entered his decline, it seems. And I think Duchene has ability to bounce back. I don't think Johansson has that ability.
No, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, you either one. I don't think you go wrong either way, to be honest with you.
No, both of them are like don't be the center faces of a franchise, I think.
Yep. They could be. They could be a Marc-Andre. They could be a Marc-Andre Fleury, you know?
Mm. Now, there are some players who has potential who could be trade bait, like Sean Clark right here, Nick Cousins right here, Matthew Benning, who don't have as high contracts as Duchesne and Johansson, but you have the ability to take the center face of the franchise. I don't think you miss.
Yeah, no, I think, you take one of those two. I'm with you. If that's the way they go, you take one of those two. Like I talked earlier, it's all about name recognition. It's all about getting that excitement, getting those butts in the seats, and keeping the tickets off the secondary market.
Exactly. Moving on to the New Jersey Devils, and this one was really tough to take because it was such a bunch of young guys who have potential, but who aren't proven at the NHL level. Like you don't have any players from like Minnesota, like no Kevin Bialas or Zuccarellos or anything. All you've got is Nico Hischier for sure, who's going to be protected on this Devils team. Oh, and Blackwood, but Blackwood.
Oh, I already see my name. I see my name right off the bat.
Go ahead.
And I'm sure you didn't pick him. I'm taking Subban. First of all, I need that money. I need to hit that floor, right? And second of all, personality. His personality will be that type. He's a Marc-Andre. He could be your Marc-Andre Fleury, that centerpiece. I know he's older. I get that. I know his production isn't everything, but as a defenseman, he can still play the game. Is he worth $9 million? No, he's not. I'll admit that. But this is a team that is ready. This is a team already sold out their building. They need to keep tickets off the secondary market. Subban keeps tickets off the secondary market.
True. Now I don't have Subban. You were right in that, but I can see your point in that, similar to Johansson and Duchesne. But unlike Nashville, there are quite a few youngsters who have potential here, such as Nick Merkley, who I do believe will play his 2 games remaining, or Kugokin, who are both 22 years old and 23 years old, and still has potential to be a medal set forward.
Well, we'll see. I mean, this comes to what is their strategy? What is their goal? You know, you have your 5-year goal, but as much as you have your 5-year, what is your 1-year goal? What is your expectations for your first year? And that's really important to this draft. It's more important to this draft than it is your 5-year goal, because your 5-year goal is your entry draft, right? And your free agency. This draft is absolutely nothing more than the most important thing to your first year goal.
I didn't see it from that point, but that actually makes very good sense.
Hey, thank you. I thought I was being the idiot here. I'm waiting for the comments on this going, boy, that Hawaii Blues fan's an absolute joke. What a dummy he is.
I would consider Subban for your points, and he can be the centerpiece, and plus he's a free agent at the end of the year too.
Yeah, trading if need be, but I don't think anybody's taking him.
No one will, but if he doesn't work out, you just walk away. No dirt on your hands.
Yep, it's $9 million for 1 year, and it's $9 million you got the next year. That's 3 players. That's 2 or 3 players next year.
Moving on to the New York Islanders, and this I'm going to receive a lot of hate from, because I remember for 4-on-4 approach exposing a lot of players who normally would be protected, such as Brock Nelson, Jordan Eberle, Josh Bailey, and some youngsters like among them
Yeah.
Dow Cole down here. Aho. Well, who do you see as the biggest targets but I don't have protected?
Is who? Oh. Well, I would say Aho, but Aho's not going to get his game, so he's not going to be eligible. Because if Aho was eligible and you're not protecting him, I'd take Aho before. I mean, like that. Probably Brock Nelson. I think you're looking at, again, veteran leadership, hit that floor. Veteran, the core to help these young guys, because with the exception of maybe Subban, we've taken very young defensemen. You're going to give up a lot of goals unless you start looking at some two-way forwards. And I think Nelson is somewhat of a two-way forward. Eberle's a two-way forward somewhat. That's where you got to start looking. I'm going to look at age too. I'll take Nelson for the age. I'll take Nelson because he's 29, $6 million. And it's not a great contract, but it's not a horrible one either. And it does give me the ability to trade him if need be.
Now I'm going to be taking Eberle from basically the same points you did as like a center base and two-way player, but I do have them trading Eberle before the start of the season. I don't see Eberle being on the official Seattle roster entering Game 1.
That's possible, but that's going to be hard to trade that $5.5 million. Or is that what I'm saying? $5.5 million?
That's $5.5 million.
Yeah, $5.5 million. Yeah.
I think they'll hold back half of that contract to trade away him.
Possible.
Moving on to the New York Rangers, a young team who could very well be a cup contender by next year.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of unknown players who has potential to be a very bright breakout type of player, such as Julian Garfield over here, Brett Houghton, Kevin Rooney. Now we're seeing how Blackwell broke out this year at the age of 28, putting up a 40-point season. There are quite a bit of players who have that potential.
Yeah. This is with them. I think they have so much in the cupboard, right? With the new kid, Alex Lafreniere. He's had a good year. The other guy that they got, number 2 overall, Kakko, which I'm sure you're protecting, right?
But he's exempt.
Say again?
He's
exempt. He's still exempt. So with them, I say, you look for the most potential, and I don't know who to pick, and I honestly don't, because it's like I was talking about earlier. It comes down to what is Seattle's expectations for this year. This is one where you can pick a guy that's got, that's young, that's got, that you can re-sign for a decent price, and it's got a lot of you need upturn. So whoever's got the most upturn is who you would go with.
For my pick, I'm going back to Ron Francis Carolina days. Julian Garfield, you may forget about him, but he was a first-round pick during Francis's tenure, first-round pick 2016, where he was a goal-scoring dynamo in the juniors. But then Francis was fired, and Garfield didn't work in that system anymore. I think Francis still likes him and sees potential in him.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm good with that. That, like I said, this is one of them you throw at spaghetti and see what sticks.
Going on to a rebuilder in Ottawa, and look at how much defensemen I had available to protect.
Yeah.
Very slim pickings over here.
Yeah.
You may look at the goaltender situation as the gold mine of Ottawa, as you have a 26-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 24-year-old, all potential to be franchise minders.
Yeah.
Do you see any players who you would take from this roster?
Okay, well, this is a harder roster, and I'm actually so they've got to take 3 goalies, and I think you've got taken 2 already, right?
I have 2 taken.
Yeah, this is where I think this Matt Murray possibly becomes your our Marc-Andre Fleury, and you take, because you know what, Murray was never going to do good in Ottawa. I don't know why he went to Ottawa. I don't know why maybe he didn't have a choice. Maybe he couldn't do anything with that trade, but that defense in Ottawa is not his defense. They don't protect him very well. But we've looked at what we've got, that young defense that we've got in Seattle with some veteran leadership. Murray could, that's what Pittsburgh had. Young defense with veteran leadership. And Murray won a cup. So at this point, that might be where I go. I might go for Murray. That's the thing. That cap hit, that bad contract, isn't as bad of a contract when you really look at it.
Now, from my perspective, I am going to go with a goalie, but I'm going with Joey Daccord, as he was not very long ago considered a franchise goaltender for Ottawa. So I see them going with Daccord and learning some leadership from Cam Talbot and those veteran goalies.
Okay, if I knew you were going for Daccord, I would look at making a trade to make you pick Murray. I would ask you who you'd want to pick Murray. I would take a chance at that, because Ottawa's not, and this is the thing, Ottawa's not as bad of a team as everybody thinks they are. They shouldn't be in last. They've got talent there, right? They just don't have the right leadership. And when I mean leadership, I'm talking up top, not in the locker room, to get them where they need to be. And that's a huge problem. There's the other thing. What's the owner going to do? Is the owner so in love with Murray that he would give up a possible goalie of the future?
True. If Ottawa was to involve a trade, it'll have to be Logan Brown, as he is 23 years old and he hasn't broken out like Ottawa wanted him to be. Yeah. So if I see them pairing anyone with Murray, it would be Logan Brown.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just, again, thinking outside the box and looking at, name recognition. That man, you look at what Vegas did. Vegas took names, the names that were there that you wouldn't think should be there. They took the guys that got rejected and turned them into something. Ron Francis has got to be looking, at the same blueprint as Vegas. Even though he can't make pick trades, he's still looking at that same blueprint.
I know I was happy when Vegas took Nosek instead of Mrazek, who was exposed, but of course Nosek turned out to be a decent fourth-line player, so there's always potential in these type of things.
Next one's going to be a fun one.
And I have a lot of expensive veterans being exposed for Flyers. Yeah. I protect a lot of the longer players, and I've been told from sources that they are don't be exposing forwards. I'm assuming they'll be exposing Xavier too.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. There you go. There's your oh, wow. And you protected. You know what? They also might protect Lindblom.
Now,
right?
We both couldn't protect him, but I just can't see them letting go of Nolan Patrick so early into his career.
I get that, but you got to look at so Lindblom is not just a hockey player. His background story, his cancer, and all of that stuff, the Lindblom Strong, Oscar Strong, and all that weighs on a franchise. That while he may not be, he's a franchise type player, even though he's not a franchise player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's enough there. There's enough there that if you're going to leave him exposed, you better have a trade, because I'll tell you what, if I'm Seattle, I would grab Lindblom. I'd grab him just for the press, right? Just for that wow factor of getting Oscar Strong to Seattle.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that X factor in making this.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I'm looking at that. If you're going to do this, you need to have a trade available so they don't take him, because you look at, Jacob Vorkup, you've left some really good centers. You've left a 24-year-old who puts, not only does he put butts in the seats, he's got that community involvement with his cancer research and all of that, the X there is huge. And the X means more than the X's and O's and the ice.
That's a fair point.
You know, that's right there. I'm telling you, if I'm Ron Francis, come on, this guy knows what he's doing, right? He dealt with something. He had something like this he had the guy in I cannot think of his name. He had the guy get cancer in Carolina. You know what I'm talking about? It just happened like 2-3 years ago. He had leukemia, and he had to go through treatment, and he came back and played like one game or something.
Oh, Chris Versteeg, is that who you're talking about?
I think so. So Francis knows. I don't know his name. I just know the situation. So Francis is aware of the power of that and what that can bring to a team. If you're leaving Lindblom exposed and you're not offering me a trade not to take him, I'm taking him.
I must apologize to Brian Becker, not Versteeg, who went through injuries and came back for a couple of games and got this whole crowd behind him.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm taking a look at Dustin Perez. He had some good offensive seasons in him, and he's still only 28 with a reasonable cap hit. He could be like that PK Subban type of factor, put up 50 points for a expansion team on the back end.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's to me, that's where the trade to take him comes in. But right now, I'm sorry, if you're going to leave Lindblom exposed, you got, especially when Francis has been aware of that situation before and dealt with it before and knows the value of it. And I hate saying that, but there's value in it, right? And you'd be dumb. You know, it's just like the Steve Ayres thing, right? Look at all the value that Carolina has gotten out of Steve Ayres. Or I think that was his name, right?
Steve, but
Ayres. All the value they've gotten out of Ayres from one game. From what did he play? A little bit more than a third of a period. A little bit more than a period.
Yeah.
Right. So look at the value. That stuff means something. Lindblom has that value to him. And that's all I'm saying. There's some value there that you're going to get more return on Lindblom's $3 million than you are any other player that you pick up in this draft.
That's a very good point. I'm looking at a broadly hockey perspective. I didn't take into context for cancer and leukemia type of look at the way.
Yeah, it's another way of thinking. I said outside the box, and that's a huge outside the box thing. But for a team that just spent $650 million just to become a team, right? And you're telling me I can bring a player in and only pay him $3 million and get 30 million back, 50 million back, 60 million back? Return on investment, that's a huge investment, at least in my eyes. I lost you. Hey, Richard, I can't hear you.
That is a very
There we
good
go.
investment. Moving on to the Penguins. And this team, I'm looking at from one Hestor's type of view, as he says like Francis, very, very patient until he got fired. And this time around, I have him being quite aggressive in who he protects, as you have to protect Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and Surrey. You're protecting Dumoulin. You're protecting Gunshaw and Sucker, and Weston, Kapanen, and McCann. The only player who is optional is Pedersen right here. We'll either go with Pedersen or Matheson, and we're going with Pedersen.
Yeah, and if you do that, Matheson, well, whichever one of them you don't put is who gets taken, right? You're remember this team. At this point up till now, we don't have a lot of solid defense. We got younger defensemen. We got a couple of veterans, but when you look at both Matheson and Peterson, you're talking about good defensemen.
Personally, I'm taking Brandon Tanev as he's that fourth line grinder type, just like Ryan Reed, except without providing batter. And plus, he signed for a long time too.
Yeah, but then so is Peterson. So if you protect, Matheson's open till 26.
True.
Right? He's 27. He's got, and at 4'9", that's not a bad deal. And that's some young veteran, solid veteran on your defense.
Yeah. You can really go, no, there is no correct way in choosing out of these three players, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Moving on to the San Jose Sharks. And boy, has the team fallen from them, going from one of the best teams to one of the worst teams in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have them protecting mostly veteran players from those teams, and leaving Brent Burns exposed for great patrons. Oh, I didn't see the games. Never mind. I guess I'm protecting Burns. But Dylan Granville, he still has some potential at age 24.
If I was, I'll be honest with you. If I was San Jose, I'd leave every veteran exposed. I protect every one of my young guys, and if they grab a veteran, I'll tell you who I'm going to leave exposed. I'm going to leave Kane exposed. Kane and his antics are a little too much. Right? Leave him exposed. Leave Couture exposed. Leave those. If you're rebuilding, leave them exposed so you get that money off your hit to put towards more youth. I'm sorry. I would leave. I'd protect all the guys that need. I would protect my youngsters. I would really, really protect my youngsters.
Fair enough. Like, from the Avante Kane point of view, I have to disagree. He would be one of the few players I would protect. I think he is the best player on the Sharks in terms of production, as he's been producing really well this past season and last. I would think about exposing Erik Karlsson full, but he won't ever get claimed with that contract.
Yeah, but he's got that no movement. You got to get him off that.
You would have to convince him, and the only way to do that is to convince him that you are rebuilding.
Yeah, you good, because he just said I didn't want to come to a rebuilder again. But then again, you're sending him to Seattle, who's, guess what, rebuilding. So what I do with him is not expose, ask him to remove the no movement for exposure, but ask him, okay, give me a list of contenders that you're interested in, and let's see what we can get done.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that would be a better move. And here's the thing. Maybe you pay, so he's got what, till 27. Maybe you take a couple of years of that, the first 2 years, and you pay half of that. Right. And then you can use that other money, the other half of it for 2 or 3 younger defensemen or younger forwards to start building up and restock the cupboard.
Mm.
Right there I think you might be do better there, but because you're going to have really hard time convincing any team to take in a forward for a defenseman that's 30 years old. You got him to what, 36 for 11 million per.
Mm. So he hasn't produced an elite defenseman for past 2 years.
Yep. That's just where I'm at with that one, bud. I think here, if you're in that type of rebuild, you just protect your youngsters and let a veteran go.
Mm. That's fair.
In fact, you've seen that. We've seen that in the past. I can't throw names at you like you can, but other teams that are in rebuilds have done that. They have left big names exposed because, it doesn't do them any good in a rebuild. So they let them exposed. And then what I think would happen is, let's say that Karlsson says, you know what, go ahead and I'll let you expose me to the expansion draft. They pick him and then trade him. Right.
What could happen?
All right. That's what I look. The only way that I would take Karlsson, though, is if I knew I could trade him, and B, I needed to hit that salary floor. I was not close enough. I took so many young guys that I'm not going to hit that floor. That 11 million will make me hit the floor.
That very well could. Just like how PK Subban's contract will make you hit the floor.
Yeah, well, that's if you take Subban. You may not take Subban.
Mm. Moving on to the St. Louis Blues, the Lord team. So I'm sure you have plenty of analysis on this.
Yeah. This is going to be a real tough one. So let me see who you're protecting. Go back up, go all the way up so I can see everybody here.
O'Reilly.
Okay, O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Schenn. Okay. Perron, yes. Blaze, yes. Thomas and Kyrou. Oh man. See, you got this is one of those teams where I might be willing to do a trade. I might be willing, because I've got some young guys that I don't want to see go. Right. Schwartz, I don't think is coming back. Hoffman, I don't think is coming back. Bozak, I don't think is coming back. Bozak is a solid player for the Blues. He's 35, but he's not $5.5 million anymore. If I'm Bozak, you're not going to get Dive. You might get 2 or 3. So where are you going to get it? You're looking at this roster, and there's so many players here. The one thing that I might be willing to do, is trade Dunn. So you take Husso, or trade something else down the way. Maybe trade not Pignazzi, Delarose, for you to take Dunn. Right? Because Dunn is somebody that if we lost Dunn, there's enough behind him. Right? You've exposed Bortuzzo. Bortuzzo's 32. Dunn's 24.
Mm.
right? Scandella's 31. Just they're getting a solid, good player from St. Louis. There's no way around that. They're getting a player that can play right now from St. Louis, right? And they're getting a player that's going to be around a while. Dunn, Sundqvist, and actually Sundqvist, I could see them protecting Sundqvist and possibly leaving. Blaze, what you'll see, you also protected Barbashev, right? Or you didn't protect Barbashev?
No,
yeah, see, that's just so. Yeah, you know what I mean. At this point, I think the best thing for St. Louis to do is throw a trade to get them to take the player you want, and not lose a player you don't want to lose, right? I think that, and now that Seattle can deal, I would start working on that deal now. I really would. I really would. That's what I do. Because I mean, you look at it. There's the possibilities of you giving up, and this is going to sound homerish. The possibility of you giving up an all-star are high. I mean, high. Sundqvist is a heck of a player. He's an all-star in the old format, the 5-on-5 format. He's in the all-star game, right? He plays that good. You also look at Sanford. Sanford's had some issues lately, and a lot of people would be happy if he were to go, but I don't think Berube is going to let you not protect him. So you may end up protecting him. It's just so hard. Sanford, I mean, it really is so hard. And the best thing that I think you could do is a trade to get them to take the player you want.
Me personally, I have them taking Dunn no matter what, as you don't pass up on a 24-year-old defenseman.
Yeah, but remember, this is a young defensive team. Well, you know what? You're taking a 24-year-old defenseman who has a Stanley Cup ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make so, and then if I'm Seattle, I tell St. Louis I'm not taking Dunn to possibly get him to do the trade to get me to take Dunn.
Like to make them throw in someone like Kyle Clifford or Mackenzie McEwen, or maybe Huso, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I'd go.
Moving on to the reigning Stanley Cup champions, Tampa Bay Lightning. There are a lot of good players exposed here.
Yeah. This is another team you're getting a potential all-star from.
Like I'm leaving off Ryan McDonough, anchor on a blue line, Lundstrom, Eric Cernak, hometown boy Tyler Johnson, Killorn. Such a bunch of players who could be an impact right away.
Yeah. I like Cernak at 23 and 2.9 mil. I think that might be because now especially if you're taking Dunn at 24 and now Cernak, I think fits in with what you're going. I actually think I might be high on defensemen. And I might have to be taken forwards. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't been clicking to see where I'm at, as we've been talking about this. But that's the one that stands out to me. But if I'd had to take Coleman's a UFA this year, so that wouldn't do me any good. But Alex Kilborn there, 31. That's not a bad one there either.
Me personally, I think Tampa pays a lot for them to take Tyler Johnson off their hands. I think it could involve them trading Cernak for overweight so that they can take Johnson as well.
Possible. Good points.
And plus, he's that center face that we could lose as well. Same as how you have Subban as a center face, or Johansson, or Duchesne.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Moving on to the Leafs room, a lot of fans are probably watching this to only talk about the Leafs, but moving on about that, I'm going full forward for defenseman goalie approach. I don't think that's the one approach at all for this.
Oh, no.
Like, there is only one player on the Leafs on the defense core that Seattle will consider, and that's Travis Dermott, who is
actually, no, you got to go back. Okay. So those guys in green, you have to leave one of those unprotected. You have to leave one defenseman that is not a UFA this year unprotected. You have to leave one of those 4 unprotected. You're gonna have to go the 7-3 route, right? You're not gonna be able to do that.
But no leaving Hall off, and then no pay Seattle to not take Hall.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sorry, I don't mean. I'm just saying that's something that because I remember reading it. You have to leave that one defenseman. You have to leave 2 forwards and 1 defenseman that meet the green category unprotected.
That still doesn't change who I'm picking for, as I have them picking up forward. I have them picking Travis Dermott as like kind of a depth option who still has a tiny bit more potential to give.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know enough about the Leafs, believe it or not, to give you a solid. That's the way I go. The Leafs are an enigma to me. They have so much. They're like to me, the Leafs are a cruiser in the Navy, a Ticonderoga Road Trust cruiser in the Navy. They're so top heavy that if they ever took a really, really hard wave, they capsize. So this team is so top heavy that every time that they take a hit, there's nothing in the bottom to stabilize them. Right. And that's where they need to really look. They need that bottom 6, those bottom 4 defensemen to stabilize this team when it takes a hit, and they're not there. So that's why this team consistently capsizes in the playoffs.
They kind of changed that around this past offseason for signing Zach Bogosian and signing Wayne Simmons, Joe Thornton. So they took that advice too hard, that they are too soft for the playoffs, and changed it.
I'm with you. I like I said, they got a chance. The Leafs have got a chance, but if their keel, that bottom isn't solid, they take that hit, they can't come back. And that's what's so important with them. Actually, you know what? Okay, never mind. They're not on here. I thought about something and never mind. Go ahead.
Moving on to the Vancouver Canucks, and I'm going with a 7 forward, 3 defensemen, 1 goalie approach. And I think Holtby is a very intriguing case, as he has cup pedigree, as we saw in Washington. He could very well be a top pick to be taken here.
Yeah, but that's going to be. Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, I could see it. I really could. I mean, this is a tough team to look at, and Vancouver's just one of those where. So if you do take Holtby, you're going to have to trade one of your other goalies, more than likely. So you have some room, and not only that. Remember, you're drafting 30 guys. Okay. And this is the one thing about this that I don't understand. You're drafting 30 guys You only have 23 roster spots. So a lot of these guys that you need to draft, some of them need to go to your minor leagues, right? And if you're drafted so heavy that you can't put anybody in the minor leagues, you're going to have to trade guys. So that's the other spot you got to look at is what you're going to trade. I actually thought that they should only be allowed to draft from 23 teams, right? For a 23-man roster. And then from the other teams, take a draft pick, a late round draft pick, a 6th or a 7th round draft pick, right? So the teams put out their exposure list. They pick their 23 players, and then everybody else over the next 3 years, they take a 6th or 7th round pick.
That's a very intriguing way of doing things. So valued on stuck with the AHL players from a list of good players.
Mm-hmm. It just to me that, you know, you've got to build. You're not building just the NHL roster. You're building your AHL roster too. And a lot of people, when they look at this, they don't look at it that way. They really don't. They only look at the NHL roster. And actually, you've done a lot of guys that you've done are young enough that have some exemptions that could go back to the AHL here and there. So that's a smart way to do it. And I think that you've done that some, but this is one, that's the other thing that you need to look at. They still have to fill an AHL roster.
Which is why I didn't have Holtby being taken for first place. I just wanted to see if Lou did. I have them picking Madison Bowey as a depth defenseman who can go to the AHL.
Yeah. Yep. I could see that.
But that was my. I can see your point about AHL players being available because they are also part of this process too.
Yep.
Almost done. Washington they are very top heavy. It's just like Pittsburgh. You know who's going to be protected and who's going to be exposed here.
Mm-hmm.
I did take Daniel Braun ahead of Lars Eller, though, so that's a surprise answer for you.
You protected one that I wouldn't protect.
Who's that?
Oshie.
Why?
Because Oshie has that tie, right? Oshie has that tie to that area. Oshie, while he's good with, you know, he's good and all that, if I'm Seattle, I'm talking to you about what other player can I trade you that I'm going to pick to get you to unprotect Oshie.
That's a very good point.
Right? I could see Oshie's at 5.75. I would ask them what other player in that price range would you be willing, you know, to take? You know, look at here's the guys that we're thinking about taking. Because remember, this list is out long before the guys, you know, that they know who they're taking, right? So when they're going down, I'd be talking to them and say, hey, what do you think about this? You know, look at everybody's unprotected. When the unprotected list comes out, right? Look at everybody's unprotected list. Who would you like to have? That's in the same range. We'll take them and then trade them to you to keep TJ Oshie unprotected. Or we'll take a low end player and then trade them to you for TJ Oshie.
One player that could fit Oshie's type of play is Jordan Eberle. As I said, I don't have him going to Seattle. That could be part of the trade because they basically cross each other out.
I could also see them leaving Tom Wilson exposed.
Wow.
Look, his antics and his suspensions and all that stuff, right? If I have a chance to get rid of it, you know, if I have a chance to say, hey, I don't want to deal with this anymore, it's too much. I mean, you know, At what point is he going to get a season suspension? Right? Because he's going to get one, or he's going to get, he's already had a 20 game that got reduced. He's going to get a 40, a 60, or an 80. He's going to pull one of these where he's going to get that full on, you're done suspension. And I've got him for 3 more years. If I leave him unprotected, there's a chance that Seattle takes him for name recognition.
I didn't consider exposing Wilson, but that's a very good point because he says that once he's done for a Leo, that could be at the most worst time possible for Washington, because they could be a cup contender when the top 6 forward is just done.
Well, I mean, but so let's say this. Let's say you get him, right? And you get, say, in 2 years or 3 years, you're pushing, and then he does one of those things where, you're gone. Washington is still a contender. Okay. And there's a good chance that in the next couple of years, that the league is going to get to a point where they're no longer going to want Tom Wilson in the league. Look at what's happening in Vancouver right now with Veritan. Right? Remember the conversation we just had on my show? Right? Yeah. Look at what's happening with that. This is going to push into the game, unfortunately. Tom Wilson's level of game, the dirty play is hurting the game. Plain and simple. At some point, the NHL is going to have enough. With Veritan, with some of the other players and the things that have been going on, the stuff, the outside stuff, it's going to have an effect. At some point, he's a headache, period. And at some point, no one's going to want to deal with the headache. This is your one chance to let somebody else take your headache and give you a chance to fill it with an even better player. I know I'm weird.
No, that actually gives me a lot to think about. Kind of like how Rafi Torres was forced out of the league. Me personally, I have them go after Vanacek, who was a very solid starter when Samsonov was out, but that's a very good possibility too.
Yeah, hey, here, let me read this to you real quick. This is from what we were talking about earlier. I knew I'd seen it. I just couldn't remember where I found it. One defenseman must be left unprotected who is under contract in 21-22 and has met one of the 2 following requirements: played 40-plus games in the 2021 season, or played 70-plus games in the 19-20 and the 2021 seasons. Players who meet these requirements are highlighted in green. So that means that in the defenseman, you have to leave one of those unprotected. So in that area where you had the 4 of them, I forget which team it was, you've got to leave one of them unprotected. So you've got to go with the 7-3.
Okay, I'll remember that when I make my official list before the expansion draft. Thanks for clarifying that for me.
No problem. And then I know it's your show. I'm just, making sure that we're, you've corrected me and helped me out, and I'm just trying to help you out, bud.
Oh, I'm not taking offense to it. I'm actually driving with it.
Yeah.
One last team to go. Winnipeg Jets. Boy, has the defense just crumbled from what they used to have with Bufflin and Trooper and Myers. Now it's Morrissey and Pionk. I do have them protecting a 22-year-old Logan Stanley as well, though. So
I could see that. I think this is another team that you could take and throw a dart at and just pick one of them. I think, you know what, from here you take with Winnipeg, you take someone to go down, someone who can, a minor league guy. You take a AHL guy if they've got somebody there. Looking here, Oh, he didn't have enough games remaining. I was looking at Dominic there for a second. Yeah, that's my. Oh, they don't even have any. Well, maybe Mason Appleton. Yeah, Mason Appleton's probably still got some stuff available. Andrew Crop. I think this is one of those teams where you can look at taking somebody that you can start making up your AHL list with.
I didn't enter this as an ASL prospect type of thinking, but that's very good thinking. Me personally, like before I started this, I said for Manson I was going to be traded to Winnipeg. And
Yeah.
if that happens, I have Logan Stanley going, who can play in for 8, so if he needs to be for Seattle.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Guy. I hope you enjoyed doing this with me.
Oh yeah, man, that was fun. You know, I'm looking at the time. Wow, we went 2 hours. It doesn't feel like it, man. This is when you talk hockey, it's so easy to just get into things that don't seem like they're hockey, but they're important. And you know, like I talked about with Wilson, and like I talked about with Oscar Lindblom and things like that. All of that is what a GM has to take into account. And we're sitting here. When a lot of people do this, they're only doing it from the player's perspective, right? From a talent perspective. And you can't just do it from a talent perspective. You have to do it from that overall perspective. Your money, your X factor, the baggage, right? All of that stuff matters to a GM. And Ron Francis dealt with a lot of that baggage when he was in Carolina. He had some baggage in Carolina, if I remember right. They had some issues there. So he's got to look at all of that when he's doing this and come up with the best solution overall. And that's why my picks may have been a little off the wall, because that's how you have to look at things sometimes, is off the wall.
And that's a good perspective to think on too, as that creates discussions for us to have. And if there was no discussions, my channel would be boring as hell.
Yeah, nope, your channel's not boring at all, man. Hey, I want to thank you. Do you mind if I talk about my channel a little bit real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. I was about to mention your channel.
Oh, well, thank you. So I'm Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan. I am the owner and operator of the STLFanreport.com. My personal show is the God, I'm so messed up, is the Blue Note Fan Report. I cover the Blues pretty extensively. We do a pregame, postgame, and intermission shows live. And then during the playoffs, we're going to almost do a show every day but Sundays and have different guests in that. Tuesday, I've got Ladies Night coming up, and I'll have some more of that. So, hey, check out STLFanreport.com and the Blue Note Fan Report on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
It's a good channel, lots of information. I recommend checking it out.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And we love having you on when you come on, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Gabe. A lot of information went through my mind, and I don't think I'll be able to sleep without thinking about hockey now. So
you're not the only one.
Have a good night, Gabe.
You too, sir. Bye now.
Bye.
You're still live.